He kept this secret for 60 years, and when the truth finally surfaced, Judge Caprio's reaction stunned the entire courtroom. "I don't want to talk about it, Your Honor." The words don't shake, they sink. Robert Johnson Tank stands at the defense table, shoulders curved inward, gripping the wood like it's the only thing holding him upright. He's 87, but the weight he carries is not age, it's memory. Judge Frank Caprio looks up, slowly. He doesn't interrupt, he doesn't press. He studies the man the way only Caprio does, noticing the trembling breath, the tightened jaw, the eyes that refuse to look anywhere but down. "Mr. Tank," the judge says softly, "I'm trying to understand. You're being cited for parking in a disabled spot, but the citation shows you do have a valid placard. Is that true?" Tank nods once, quiet, controlled. "Yes, sir. I have one. I just forgot to hang it that day." Caprio leans forward. "And why do you have a disabled placard, Mr. Tank?" Tank's fingers curl tighter around the table. He doesn't look up. "That's complicated, Your Honor." A silence falls over the room. Not courtroom silence, but human silence. Everyone feels it. The gallery, the bailiff, even the clerk who stops typing. Tank swallows. "I'd rather just pay the fine. I don't need to talk about it." Caprio doesn't force him, but he doesn't look away either. Because sometimes it's the pain people hide the longest that needs to be heard the most. Before we go any deeper into what this man hid for 6 decades, you're watching Case Closed, where real stories remind us why compassion is justice. Hit subscribe right now, because what happens next is one of the most emotional moments ever seen in Judge Caprio's courtroom. "Mr. Johnson," Caprio says, "how long have you had your disability placard?" Tank hesitates. His mouth opens, then closes. He shifts his weight from one foot to the other, and his left leg trembles slightly before he steadies himself. "About 12 years, he says. "Maybe longer. I don't use it much." "Why not?" Caprio asks. Tank looks down again. "Because I don't like to," he says quietly. Case called 10:15 a.m. Disabled parking violation outside Providence VA Medical Center. Miss Reyes, the court clerk, stands at her station. She adjusts her reading glasses and lifts the file in front of her. "State of Rhode Island versus Robert Johnson," she announces. "Case number 2025T7743. The defendant is charged with parking in a designated disabled parking space without displaying a valid placard. The citation was issued on November 3rd at 2:01 p.m. outside the VA Medical Center. The fine is $75. She sets the file down and looks at Tank, then at Caprio. Caprio thanks her and turns his attention back to Tank. "Mr. Johnson," he says, "the citation says you're 87 years old. Is that correct?" "Yes, sir." "And you have a valid disabled parking placard?" "Yes, sir, I do." "But you forgot to display it that day?" Tank nods. "Yes, sir, I forgot." Caprio tilts his head slightly. "Can you help me understand why you need the placard in the first place?" Tank's jaw tightens. His hands, still gripping the table, press down harder. "It's not important," he says. "I'll just pay the fine and be on my way." Caprio does not look away. His voice remains soft but insistent. "Mr. Johnson, I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm trying to understand what happened that day. Because if there's a reason you forgot to display the placard, a legitimate reason, then this court needs to hear it." Tank's shoulders rise slightly, as if bracing against something. "There's no reason that matters," he says. "I broke the rule. I'll pay for it." Caprio studies him for a long moment. Then he leans back in his chair. "Did you serve?" he asks. The question lands like a stone in still water. Tank's entire body goes rigid. His hands, still gripping the table, tighten until his knuckles turn white. He does not answer immediately. Clerk's note: defendant's hands visibly shaking. "Yes, sir," Tank says finally. His voice is quieter now, almost reluctant. "Marine Corps." Caprio nods slowly. "When did you serve?" Tank's mouth works silently for a moment, as if the words are caught somewhere between his chest and his throat. "Vietnam," he says. 1968 to 1970. Caprio's expression does not change, but something shifts in his eyes. A recognition, a quiet respect. "Thank you for your service," Caprio says. Tank does not respond. He simply stands there, his head still bowed, his hands still shaking. "Was that your only tour?" Caprio asks. Tank hesitates. His jaw tightens again. He looks down at the table, at his own hands, at the way they tremble against the wood. "No, sir," he says quietly. Caprio waits. "I went back," Tank says. "Iraq, 2004 to 2005. The courtroom shifts. The woman in the third row sits up straighter. The man near the aisle leans forward. Officer D'Angelo's expression changes just slightly. A flicker of something that might be surprise or might be respect. "You volunteered to go back?" Caprio asks. "Yes, sir." "At what age?" Tank pauses. 60. Caprio's face remains calm, but his voice carries a weight now, a quiet gravity. "Was that your last deployment?" Tank shakes his head once slowly. "No, sir," he says. "I went to Afghanistan in 2007. Came home in 2008. The silence in the courtroom deepens. People in the gallery glance at each other. Officer D'Angelo uncrosses his arms. Caprio does not speak for several seconds. He simply looks at Tank, at the way the old man stands with his shoulders hunched and his hands trembling, and something passes across the judge's face. Something that looks like awe and sorrow mixed together. Service record. Vietnam, 68-70. Iraq, 04-05. Afghanistan, 07-08. "Mr. Johnson," Caprio says softly, "is your disability from those years of service?" Tank's hands tighten on the table again. He does not answer immediately. He looks down at the floor, at his own boots, at the worn tiles beneath them. "Some of it," he says. "What does that mean?" Caprio asks gently. Tank shifts his weight. His left leg trembles again, and this time he does not try to hide it. "Bad knees," he says. "Bad back. The usual." Caprio tilts his head slightly, studying Tank's face. "If it was just your knees and your back," he says quietly, "you wouldn't look like that when you breathe." Tank's jaw clenches. He looks up, and for the first time his eyes meet Caprio's. They are pale blue, faded like old denim, and they carry something that cannot quite be named. Grief, maybe? Or shame? Or both? "I'm fine, Your Honor," Tank says. "Are you?" Caprio asks. Tank does not answer. He simply stands there, his hands still gripping the table, his breathing shallow and uneven. Caprio leans forward again, his voice even softer now. "Mr. Johnson, what happened on the day you got this citation?" Tank's shoulders rise, his hands clench, his mouth opens, then closes. "I don't remember it very well," he says finally. "Why not?" "Because my memory isn't always clear." Caprio's expression does not change, but his voice becomes even gentler. "Is that part of your disability?" Tank nods once slowly. "Yes, sir." Clerk notes. Defendant pauses for 11 seconds before answering. "Some days," Tank says quietly, "I have trouble remembering things. Some days I can't tell if I'm in Providence or somewhere else."
Caprio does not interrupt. He simply waits, his face patient and still. "Somewhere like where?" he asks gently. Tank's voice drops to almost a whisper. "Kayan, Fallujah, Kandahar. Pick a ghost." The courtroom is silent.
The woman in the third row has tears in her eyes now. The man near the aisle has his head bowed. Officer D'Angelo stands near the door with his hands behind his back, his face solemn. "Mr. Johnson," Caprio says, "were you having one of those days when you got this citation?" Tank nods. "Yes, sir." "Can you tell me what happened?" Tank's hands unclench briefly, then clench again. His breathing is shallow now, uneven. "I was trying to get to my appointment at the VA," he says. "Therapy? I go every Tuesday, but that day I was shaking in the truck. I could hear engines backfiring. Sounded like mortars." His voice cracks slightly. "I just needed to get inside before I fell apart in the lot." Caprio's expression is unreadable, but his eyes are intent, focused entirely on Tank. "So you parked as close as you could to the entrance?" he asks. "Yes, sir." "And you forgot to hang up your placard because you were in the middle of a panic attack?" Tank nods. "Yes, sir." VA file notation. Diagnosis: chronic PTSD. Panic episodes triggered by crowds, engines, backfiring noises. Caprio does not speak for a long moment. He simply looks at Tank, at the way the old man's hands shake, at the way his shoulders hunch forward, as if he is trying to make himself smaller. "Mr. Johnson," Caprio says finally, "why do you keep pulling your sleeves down?" Tank's hands freeze. He looks down at his arms, at the long sleeves of his shirt, at the way he has been tugging them down over his wrists every few seconds. "Old scars," he says quietly, "not for public view." Caprio's voice remains soft, but there is a firmness in it now, a gentle insistence. "Mr. Johnson, sometimes the things we hide are exactly what the world needs to see." Tank shakes his head. "Not these, Your Honor. These aren't for the world." "What are they for?" Caprio asks. Tank's voice is barely audible now. "They're for them." The courtroom waits. The air feels thick, heavy with something unspoken. "Tank," Caprio says quietly, "I need you to trust me. Whatever you're hiding, this courtroom can handle it. We're not here to judge you. We're here to understand you." Tank's hands tremble. His jaw works. His eyes close briefly, and when they open again, they are wet. "Your Honor," he says, his voice breaking, "I've been hiding this for 60 years. Hiding—"
"What?" Caprio asks. Tank does not answer. Instead, he slowly, so slowly reaches for the cuff of his left sleeve. His hands shake as he begins to roll it up inch by inch, revealing pale, scarred skin beneath. The scars are old, faded white lines that crisscross his forearm like a map of forgotten battles, but it is not the scars that make the courtroom gasp. It is the names. Tattooed in small, precise black ink running from his wrist to his elbow are names, dozens of them, each one carefully inscribed, each one perfectly legible, each one carrying a weight that no ink can capture. Tank rolls up his right sleeve next. More names, more scars. The woman in the third row covers her mouth with her hand. The man near the aisle has tears streaming down his face. Officer D'Angelo's jaw is tight, his eyes fixed on Tank's arms. Caprio stands. He does not speak. He simply looks at Tank's arms, at the names inked there, at the scars beneath them. "Tank," he says finally, his voice barely above a whisper, "what are those names?" Tank's voice when it comes is broken. "My boys," he says. "Every Marine I lost. 47. Caprio's hands rest on the bench in front of him. His face is still, but his eyes are wet. 47? He repeats quietly. "Yes, sir." "Where did you lose them?" Tank's voice is a roar now, raw. 23 in Vietnam, 15 in Iraq, 9 in Afghanistan. Caprio does not move. He does not speak. He simply stands there looking at Tank, at the names on his arms, at the weight the old man has been carrying alone for 60 years. "Why did you tattoo their names?" Caprio asks gently. Tank wipes his eyes with the back of his hand. His voice shakes. "Because I couldn't bring them home," he says. "So I carry them here. Every name, every face, every promise I failed to keep." The courtroom is silent. Not the kind of silence that waits for something to happen, but the kind of silence that happens when something sacred is being witnessed. Caprio steps down from the bench. He moves slowly, deliberately, his robes trailing behind him. He walks to the front of the courtroom and stands a few feet from Tank. "Tank," he says quietly, "did you tattoo these yourself?" Tank nods. "Yes, sir. Took me a year to finish the list. I added them one by one as I learned their names." Caprio's voice is steady, but his eyes are filled with tears. "Can you tell me some of their names?" Tank's voice breaks completely now. "Ramirez," he says. "Collins. Nguyen. Brooks." He pauses, his shoulders shaking. "That's 4 out of 47, Your Honor. I can name every single one. I see their faces every day." Sample names spoken aloud. Ramirez, Collins, Nguyen, Brooks. 4 out of 47. If this is already touching your heart, subscribe to Case Closed, so more
People see stories like this. Caprio does not interrupt. He simply stands there a few feet from Tank, his face lined with emotion. "Tank," he says gently, "is this why you need the disabled parking placard? Because of the PTSD?" Tank nods. "Yes, sir. Some days the parking lot looks like a drop zone. I hear the helicopters. I see the faces. I park close so I can get inside before the ghosts do." His voice drops to a whisper. "That day, the day I got the ticket, I was having one of the worst episodes I've had in months. I forgot about the sign. I forgot about the placard. I was just trying not to run." Caprio's jaw tightens. He looks down at the floor for a moment, then back up at Tank. "So, you weren't trying to cheat the system," he says quietly. "You were trying to survive it." Tank nods. "Yes, sir." Caprio steps closer. His voice is firm now, but not harsh. "Tank, how many people know about these names?" Tank shakes his head. "Nobody, Your Honor. I keep them covered. Always have." "Why?" Tank's voice cracks. "Because people don't understand. They see a tattoo and they think it's decoration. They don't know what it means to carry 47 names on your skin. They don't know what it means to wake up every morning and see the faces of men who died because you couldn't save them." Caprio does not look away. His voice is soft but insistent. "Tank, those men didn't die because you couldn't save them. They died because they were Marines. They died doing what Marines do, and you honor them every single day by carrying their names." Tank's shoulders shake. He covers his face with his hands, and for the first time in 60 years, he weeps openly in front of other people. 10:02 a.m., VA therapist note. Client arrived shaking, drenched in sweat, disoriented. Caprio does not move. He simply stands there a few feet from Tank, letting the old man cry without interruption or judgment. After a long moment, Caprio speaks. "Tank," he says quietly, "would you do something for me?" Tank lifts his head. His eyes are red, his face wet with tears. "Depends what it is, Your Honor," he says hoarsely. Caprio reaches up and begins to unfasten his robe. He removes it slowly, carefully, And then he steps forward and holds it out to Tank. "Wear this," he says. Tank stares at him. "I can't, sir. That's not for me." Caprio's voice is firm now, but filled with something that sounds like reverence. 47 Marines are on your arm," he says. "You've carried them alone for 60 years. Let this room carry you for once." Tank shakes his head. "Your Honor, I can't." "You can," Caprio says gently, "and you will." He steps forward and places the robe on Tank's shoulders. Tank does not move. He simply stands there, draped in the judge's robe.
Robe, his arms still bare, the name still visible. Caprio steps back. He looks at Tank for a long moment, and then he does something no one in the courtroom expects. He salutes. The courtroom erupts, not with applause, but with the silent raised hand gesture of respect used in the deaf community. Hands lift and wave gently back and forth, a wave of silent gratitude that fills the room without sound. Tank stands frozen, the robe draped over his shoulders, tears streaming down his face. Caprio's voice carries across the courtroom, clear and steady. "Attention in this courtroom," he says. "Today, this man does not stand here as a defendant. He stands here as a reminder of the price of our comfort. He stands here as a testament to sacrifice that most of us will never understand." He turns to face the gallery. "This man volunteered to serve his country 3 times. He commanded Marines in 3 wars. He lost 47 men under his command, and for 60 years he has carried their names in silence." Court log. Judge left bench at 10:34 a.m. Returned at 10:41 a.m. without robe. Caprio turns back to Tank. "Mr. Johnson," he says, "on the matter of the citation issued on November 3rd, it is dismissed, fully and finally. You owe this court nothing." Tank's mouth opens, but no sound comes out. Caprio continues, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You don't owe this court $75, he says. "This court owes you a debt it cannot repay. This country owes you a debt it cannot repay. And those 47 Marines," his voice cracks slightly, "those 47 Marines are honored today because you refuse to forget them." He steps closer to Tank. "If you ever fear the ghosts will win," he says quietly, "you call this courtroom. We'll remind you you're not alone." Tank nods, unable to speak. Caprio looks out at the gallery. "Is there anyone here who served?" he asks. 3 people stand. A man in his 60s near the back, a woman in her 40s in the second row, a younger man near the aisle. Caprio nods to each of them. "Thank you," he says. "And if any of you are carrying weight like this man carries, I want you to know this courtroom sees you. This city sees you, and we will not let you carry it alone." The gallery is silent. The woman in the 3rd row is crying openly now. Officer D'Angelo has his hand over his heart. Miss Reyes, the clerk, has stopped typing, her hands folded in front of her. Should every veteran's case be reviewed with compassion? Tell us in the comments. Gallery note. Multiple defendants set citations aside, listening in silence. The video is posted online 3 days later. Within 24 hours, it has 5 million views. Within a week, it has 42 million. Comments flood in from around the world. Veterans share their own stories. People post photos of their own
hidden scars, their own tattooed names, their own 60-year secrets. One comment reads, "I'm a Vietnam vet. I've hidden my arm for 50 years. I thought I was the only one." Another, "My grandfather died without ever telling anyone what he carried. I wish she'd had a Judge Caprio. Another, this is what justice looks like. News outlets pick up the story. Politicians reference it in speeches. Mental health advocates share it as a call to action. A GoFundMe is created without Tank's knowledge. It raises over $600,000 in less than 3 weeks. The funds are designated for veteran PTSD programs in Providence and nationwide. The Rhode Island courts adopt a new protocol, Veteran-Sensitive Case Review. Every veteran who appears in court is now asked if they need accommodations, if they need support, if they are carrying weight that the court should know about. The VA expands its PTSD outreach programs. Mobile crisis units are funded. Peer support networks are established. Tank becomes, against his will, a symbol he does not want to be. He tells reporters he is just one man. He tells them there are thousands of men and women like him carrying the same weight, hiding the same scars. But the world does not forget him. Metrics: 24 hours, 5 million views. 7 days, 42 million views. 6 months later, Tank returns to Providence Municipal Court. This time, he is not a defendant. He is a volunteer. He sits in the back of the courtroom during hearings. When a veteran comes before the judge, Tank listens. Afterward, he approaches them quietly, respectfully, and he offers to talk. He does not tell them what to do. He does not give advice. He simply tells them that he understands. He shows them his arms. He tells them about the names. He tells them they are not alone. Caprio watches from the bench. He does not interrupt. He does not interfere. He simply allows Tank to do what Tank does best: serve. On one particular Tuesday morning, exactly 6 months to the day from the citation dismissal, Tank walks into the courtroom early. He is wearing a short-sleeved shirt. The names on his arms are visible. Caprio sees him and steps down from the bench before the morning docket begins. "Back again, Mr. Johnson?" he asks. Tank smiles, a small, quiet smile. The first one anyone in the courtroom has ever seen from him. "This time, I came on purpose, Your Honor," he says. Caprio nods. "You're helping people." "Trying to," Tank says. "There's a vet coming in today, DUI. He called me last night. Said he doesn't know how to tell the judge what's really going on." Caprio's expression softens. "What are you going to tell him?" he asks. Tank looks down at his arms, at the names in there, at the scars beneath them. "I'm going to tell him that hiding doesn't work." He says quietly, "I hid for 60 years, and all it did was make the weight heavier. I'm going to tell him that the people who care, they can handle the truth." Caprio places his hand on Tank's shoulder. "You thought those 47 names were your burden?" he says. "Turns out, they're your mission." Tank nods. "Yes, sir. I think they always were. I just didn't know it yet." 6 months later, to the day, from citation dismissal. The morning session begins. A young man, 32 years old, Army veteran, 2 tours in Iraq, stands before the bench. He is charged with DUI. He is shaking. He cannot make eye contact. Caprio asks him what happened. The young man tries to speak, but the words will not come. He looks down at the floor, his hands clenched at his sides. Tank stands from his seat in the back. He walks slowly to the front of the courtroom. He stops a few feet from the young man and waits. The young man looks up. He sees Tank's arms. He sees the names. "How many?" he asks quietly. 47, Tank says. The young man's eyes fill with tears. "I lost 6. Tank nods. "Then you know." The young man's voice breaks. "I can't stop seeing them." "Neither can I," Tank says. "But I stopped trying to. And that's when I started healing." He lifts his arm,
showing the names clearly. "These aren't my shame," he says. "They're my honor. And yours aren't your shame either." The young man weeps. Tank does not try to stop him. He simply stands there, arms bare, names visible. A living testament to survival. Caprio watches from the bench, his eyes wet. After a long moment, he speaks. "Son," he says gently, "this court is going to help you. But first, you need to let us. Can you do that?" The young man nods, unable to speak. Caprio dismisses the DUI charge and orders treatment, counseling, and ongoing support through the veteran protocol the court established 6 months earlier. The young man leaves with Tank's phone number. They meet for coffee the following Tuesday. Tank introduces him to 3 other veterans. They form a group. The group meets every week. It grows. 2 years later, the group has 47 members. Tank did not plan that number. It simply happened. One Tuesday morning, as the 47th veteran joins the group, Tank looks around the table and counts. When he realizes the number, he stops mid-sentence. 47, he says quietly. The others look at him. There are 47 of us, he says. The room is silent for a moment. Then one of the veterans, a woman who served in Afghanistan, speaks. "That's not a coincidence," she says. "That's them. They're still with you. And now they're with us." Tank wipes his eyes. He looks down at his arms, at the name still in there, still visible, still carried. "Yeah," he says quietly. "I think you're right." The group grows beyond 47. It becomes a network. It becomes a movement.
It becomes a national model for peer-led veteran support. Tank does not take credit. He simply shows up every week, his arms bare, his names visible, his presence a reminder that survival is not just about living. It is about carrying forward the memory of those who did not. On the 3rd anniversary of the courtroom hearing, Caprio invites Tank to return to Providence Municipal Court for a formal recognition ceremony. Tank agrees, but only on one condition. "I want to bring the group," he says. Caprio smiles. "All of them? All of them?" Tank says on the day of the ceremony, 93 veterans fill the gallery. They wear short sleeves. Many of them have names tattooed on their arms now, too. Not 47. Some have 2, some have 10, some have none. But they carry the names in other ways. In journals, in photographs, in whispered prayers before they sleep. Caprio steps down from the bench. He does not wear his robe this time. He wears a simple suit. He stands in front of Tank and the 93 veterans behind him. 3 years ago, he says, a man stood in this courtroom and told me he didn't want to talk about it. He had hidden his pain for 60 years. He thought he had to carry it alone. He looks at Tank, but he was wrong. He didn't have to carry it alone. He just thought he did. And the moment he let this courtroom see the truth, the moment he rolled up his sleeves and showed us the names, everything changed. He turns to face the gallery. "This is what happens when we stop hiding," he says. "This is what happens when we ask the right questions. This is what happens when we choose compassion over judgment." He turns back to Tank. "Do you still feel like you're carrying them alone?" he asks. Tank looks around the courtroom at the 93 veterans behind him. He looks down at his arms, at the 47 names still inked there. He looks back at Caprio. "Not anymore, Your Honor," he says quietly. "Now the whole world knows their names." Caprio nods. His eyes are wet, but his voice is steady. "Good," he says, "because they deserve to be known, and so do you."
The courtroom erupts, not with applause, but with the silent wave of raised hands moving gently back and forth, a sea of gratitude and respect that fills the room without sound. Tank stands in the center of it, his arms bare, his names visible, his presence a reminder that survival is not just about living. It is about carrying forward the memory of those who did not.
Some men carry scars, others carry stories. But Tank Johnson carried names he kept hidden for 60 years. And when one judge finally asked the right question, everything changed. If you honor our veterans, if you believe their stories should never be buried, subscribe to Case Closed, because what happened next is one of the most powerful moments ever captured in Judge Caprio's courtroom. Tank didn't talk about the names, not for decades. Not to his family, not to the VA, not to the world. But when Judge Caprio gently asked why he carried a disabled placard, Tank's voice cracked, and the truth he'd been protecting since he was 22 finally came out. Those weren't tattoos. They were memorials. Every name on his arm belonged to a soldier he served with, a soldier who never made it home. When the story aired, 47 names became 93 voices. 93 voices became thousands of messages. Thousands became a movement that changed how courts, communities, and even entire states support veterans battling the hidden wounds of war. Tank Johnson still lives in Providence. He still goes to the VA every Tuesday. He still leads the veteran support group every Thursday night. And he still wears short sleeves, not to show the world what he lost, but to show the world who he refuses to forget. And when people ask him now about the names on his arms, he doesn't look away. He doesn't hide. He doesn't say, "They're not for public view." He says, "They're for everyone." Because the men whose names I carry didn't die in silence, and neither will I. This right here is the legacy Judge Frank Caprio leaves behind. Justice with humanity, compassion with courage, law with a heart. Before you go, who is your favorite judge of all time? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe to Case Closed if you believe these stories matter, if you believe justice should feel human, and if you never want moments like this to be forgotten. Case Closed, where real stories live forever.